Welcome to Screw the Commute, the entrepreneurial podcast dedicated to getting you out of the car and into the money. With your host, lifelong entrepreneur and multimillionaire, Tom Antion.
Well, hello, everyone. This is Tom here with episode 227 of Screw the Commute podcast. We're recording today on Christmas Eve 2019. This is going to be a little bit different show than my usual fare of rah-rah, sis-boom-bah kind of stuff. I've got Roberto Candelaria here with me today, and I don't know, maybe 12:30 a.m. last night, I get a text from him, and it's one of the goofy pictures he always sends me that probably can't describe here on the podcast, but
definitely not.
Yeah. So we started talking a little bit, and he kind of revealed to me that he's been a little bit down for the past, I don't know, quite a few months after the passing of his father. So I thought this would be I asked him about it, if it was okay with him or if he felt that it would be okay, and to talk about how, having a lifestyle business allowed him to take care of his mother, take care of his father, and then when his father passed, to be able to sit on the couch and just chill for a while, trying to get over the grief of his father passing, and he agreed to it. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And for those of you that don't know, Roberto's been on here before. I forget what episode it was, but it was early on. And he's a sponsorship expert and has worked with some of the big people. I'm not going to read all the people he shared the stage with because I'm not on the list, so he didn't feel to put me on there. So I guess I'm not worthy. But he's worked with all kinds of enormous companies, BMW and Dell and Disney. He loves Disney. So Roberto, how you feeling, man?
I'm doing pretty good, and the answer is episode number 50.
Episode 50 was.
If y'all are listening and y'all want to go back, episode number 50. We'll have Tom and I have a different type of conversation there.
Yeah. It'll be. It was all about sponsorship and what it can do for your business and all the things he's been teaching for years and doing himself. So I don't really recall when was it when your dad passed?
So it was January 2nd, 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And, as you mentioned, we're recording this on Christmas Eve. So going into the really, first holiday season without my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually had a stroke and a brain hemorrhage on New Year's Eve, 2018, which is, what led to all of this. And so, the past year has been, I use the word interesting in that it has taught me so much about myself as a human being, as a son, as a partner, and it's taught me a lot about even just entrepreneurship and realizing that things that I've learned from you, even in the internet marketing training school about hey, find something and do it over and over and over. When you talk about your Antion success method and about shampooing, it's one of those things that over the past several years, there were just things that I just kept doing and doing and doing. And, no one can prepare you for the loss of a parent or a sibling. I don't think really anybody, like even the loss of a pet. And so this year has been a great year in learning about myself and a great exploration through grief and how having a business, and while never planning for the loss of a parent, planning in business allowed me to be able to grieve after the loss of a parent.
Well, in addition to that, even before that, you were spending a lot of time helping your mother take care of your dad and figuring all the craziness that goes out when someone's reaching the end of their life on earth. Because I remember a lot of times, no, I'm over here, with mom and dad and, taking care of this and taking
Yep.
care of that and trying to figure things out, right?
Yeah. So dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's and in 2015. And it was a very long and also very long journey, I'll say. And at the same time, one of the best journeys that I think that I've ever been on, in that during that time, once you find out that somebody has an illness that there's not a cure for, you you have the opportunity to connect in a way that you probably did not connect before. And I think that we're all grateful for people, and that that we love our parents, or there's people in our lives that we love. And then when you find out that there's this diagnosis that there's no cure for, it's a completely different type of conversation, knowing that each one could potentially be the last, and wanting to know as much as you can before that time comes. And so those 3 years were an amazing journey. And while they were difficult through the ups and downs medically, and navigating the healthcare system here in America and
Hmm.
the insurance system here in America, I do not wish that on anyone. But the lessons learned from my dad over the years and the conversations were things that I'll carry with me forever.
Like many of us, it didn't really start out that easy with your dad, right?
No, it didn't. So, people that follow us online, know that I'm just very open about me, about life, about love, about the sense of screwed up humor that I have. And between my junior year and senior year of high school, when I decided to, publicly, say, hey, I'm gay. For those of y'all that go looking for the Facebook post, Facebook did not exist when I was in high school, so you won't find it. But it was one of those scenarios that didn't go very well. Times have really changed, and especially in the Latino culture, where there's so much about the machismo and everything else. It was a very difficult time where I wondered, would I be able to have a relationship with my dad, and would I ever be able to one day, fall in love and have somebody that not only that I would be accepted by my family, but that person would be accepted by my family. And so there was so much healing that came over the past several years. It didn't start easy. There was a while where I didn't actually communicate with my father for a while
Right. Yeah. It was
because
estranged.
of,
Yeah.
yeah, it was estranged. And, I remember one conversation that you and I had around this, because I was pretty frustrated. And, you shared with me, you said, he's your dad, and he may not understand, just like you may not understand where he's coming from, but he's your dad. And it's one of those things that even before his diagnosis of Parkinson's really led to, how do I heal this, and how do we have a different relationship, and where he doesn't push what he thinks upon me, and I don't push what he thinks, what I think on him, but that we actually just have a conversation, and not even get to know each other so much as father son, but that we get to know each other as two human beings and as two men. And it was an amazing, like I said, it's just been an amazing journey to find complete healing and restoration, and to the point that when Warren came into my life, that Warren would oftentimes help with my dad, or if I was out traveling, speaking, or as one time I was off in New Zealand speaking, and Warren was with my parents, helping my mom care for my dad. And those were things that years ago I never thought would be possible. Not when I say not possible, that I wouldn't find love, and that I also wouldn't find a partner that my parents would be accepting of and welcome. And so to complete that, that full circle per se, and have that healing and have family, is it's something that I wish for everybody, that they can find the love that they want for them, and to be able to have those sometimes difficult conversations about, how do we see eye to eye when we don't see eye to eye, and see that we're all just human beings on this same journey together, and that while we're on this journey, we have different experiences that bring us together, and sometimes they bring us apart, but that we learn from all those experiences.
Well, yeah, I mean, I might have given you some advice, but I mean, I was trying to get you to go straight because after you introduced me to that last guy before Warren, I was saying, well, come on, man, you could do better than this. So,
as
uh,
as as as, as that actually reminds me of a story. Is when we were kids, we went down to my family always traveled with this other family, and we were down at the beach one time, and this gentleman by the name of Cliff decided to drive the Suburban into the sand dunes. I don't know why he thought it was a great idea to drive the Suburban into the sand dunes, but then when it came time to leave, he couldn't actually get out, and he was just like gunning it and digging it deeper. And his wife looked at him. He gets out of the car, and his wife Debbie looks at him. I clear as day. I remember her putting her hands on her hips, shaking her head, and she just said, "Cliff, we live and we learn." And she turned around and she walked off. And that was one of those we live and we learn.
Yeah. He walked off and left him in the sand dunes. Yeah. So, so this past year, I guess, I don't know how to describe it. It's been a little bit dark for you, right?
It has. And, I went through what I know now to be depression. And I think, one of the reasons that I'm open to this conversation, having this conversation, is that I didn't realize it was depression. I didn't realize, I was, for a few weeks, I was literally I wanted to sit on the couch. I wanted to watch TV all day. And in my head, I was just like, man, I don't remember the last time I watched TV. Like, it feels good just to relax for a little bit. But, one day turned into 1 week, turned into 1 month, turned into like 3 months. And then I was just like, whoa, something's going on here.
And just think
because,
if you'd have had the dreaded job, you wouldn't have the dreaded job. You got fired.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. I would not have had the flexibility to be depressed. I will say. But I also, the flip side of that is I wouldn't have had the opportunity to learn what grieving was to me. And I think that, when I messaged you and, you asked if I was open to talk about this, I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth the rest of this conversation because I haven't publicly talked about this. What I know is that I discovered that the depression is real. What I discovered is that, is being someone who has a drive and who's always been like, oh, let's do this webinar, let's do this event, let's travel here, let's travel there, to the point that I literally just wanted to sit on the couch, watch TV. I started to drink a little bit more. And when I say more, it's like, I would have a glass of wine every now and then, but there was a couple nights where I was just like, okay, I'll drink a bottle of wine and it was okay. And and it wasn't okay, but in my head it was okay,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
And so then one day I was just like, man, I can't do this anymore. And I actually reached out to a therapist. And I believe that entrepreneurs and human beings, that sometimes we don't know how to describe what we're going through or what we're feeling, and that having a therapist and reaching out to a therapist, therapy has a lot of stigmas. And I can tell you, because I had some of my own thoughts around that. Like, I was just like, well, I'm not going to a therapist because, and for the three reasons I could come up to go to a therapist, which were, I need to become the CEO of my business again, and I need to be the one that leads my business and leads my team. I need to be there to lead my family. I want to be there to just feel happy and joyful and all of that again. While there was those reasons, there was a list of like 500,000 reasons of I shouldn't go to therapy because people would judge. Well, I couldn't go to therapy because what if they haven't lost a parent? Would they understand what that's like? Or, you know what, but they didn't have the relationship that I had with my dad. And so if they've never had an estranged relationship, how could they help teach me how to like stop feeling what I'm feeling or to start feeling what I should be? And, it was a couple weeks before I convinced myself to see a therapist. And it was been one of the most rewarding experiences of this year, is talking about my dad and talking about grief and talking about healing. And even my niece, Eliana, who's 10, went to see a grief counselor and to do some sand therapy. I didn't know sand therapy was a thing, but they do like different types of art therapy for kids. And so what
Did you
was
say
fascinating,
sand therapy? SAND?
yes,
Like
sand,
the
yeah,
guy
like a sand,
like the
like
guy in the Suburban?
no, not that type. Not that type. Definitely not that type. But what was fascinating is I learned that, my family was also having their own way of dealing with grief, but because on the surface, everybody thought I was okay. because everybody except Warren, because obviously, Warren's living with me, and he knows, like, he sees me just sitting on the couch, but everybody else thought I was fine. On the outside, the business looked fine, the personal life looked fine, my emotions looked fine. And so when I finally said, "Hey, I'm going to therapy," that opened the opportunity for my sister to say, "Hey, you know what? Maybe Eliana and I should go to grief counseling."
Mm.
And for my mom to go to grief counseling. And unintentionally, it by me speaking out and saying, "Hey, I went through this depression, I'm feeling this, and
She's only 10
this is
years
how
old.
I'm getting help." Yeah, it
Mm.
it allowed three other people in my family to begin a different type of grieving process for themselves, with counseling and with therapy as well. And I just, as an entrepreneur, we never know what other people are thinking or going through, and that I believe it's important to share and to check on your friends, especially the ones that seem, and I know we've heard it in the past, be like, "Hey, check on the strong friends, check on the ones that always look like they're okay." And it's kind of seems cliche when you hear it at first, until I went through what I went through this year, and I was just like, yeah, everybody thought everything was okay, but I knew it wasn't, until
Mhm.
I actually stepped out and said, "This is what's going on."
Wow. Wow. So I didn't know about Ileana and the rest of the family going, but I'm so glad they did. So tell us how and I could just imagine what it would have been like I said, if you were, worried of losing your job and the paycheck stopped and those kind of pressures thrown on top of all the other stuff. I mean, just like I said, I haven't had a job, so I've never had to go through that, but I've had plenty of students that have gone through all kinds of stuff, and it's just always exacerbated with worried about the job. But when you have your own business, I mean, you got to keep the bills paid and everything, but you can build up residual income things, and you keep the bills paid while life gets in the way. And I've been preaching that for 20 plus years. Tell us how the two German shepherds have played into this.
Yeah, so we've got two gorgeous German shepherds, Walt and Lillian, and we've had Walt now right about 3 years, and Lillian we just got in October, November, right around there, maybe September. I don't, sometime in the
It's been
past
a
few
little
months.
while. Yeah, it's been. I think it's been longer than that. To tell you the truth.
I'm gonna tell you, y'all, this year's kind of been like everything blurred together,
Yeah.
and but I can tell you, having Walt especially, because we had him at the beginning of the year, and having him 3 years, it's been amazing. And so, is Walt an official trained therapy dog? Well, he might not have a certificate, but I'm just gonna we'll grant him an honorary one.
Mm-hmm.
And what was great about having German Shepherd at the time, and then now too, is it actually is, and I use the word forced because that's how it felt to me at the time. Is it actually forced me to get off the couch, because it's just like, well, you're not going to take yourself out. So,
or if
so it
he
was great
poops on
because
the floor, you're going to have to sit there and smell it. So.
exactly, and we're not doing that. So it was great because it encouraged me, and like I said, it forced me to get up to know, okay, hey, I had to take the dog out. You got to feed the dog. German shepherds. If any of y'all have German shepherds, they're extremely high drive, especially when they're young. And Walt's about to be 4, so he still has not reached that point in life where he is mellowed out, but he's not as hyper as he was, 2 years ago when we got him. And so you need to run them and play with them. And so it was great because it got me outside. I saw sunlight. It gave me something to look forward to. And now that we have Lillian, I'll actually have to go back and find this paper. Tom, it's actually September, I want to say.
Seems to me it
Um,
was longer than that. It seems to me it's been a while.
Yeah, I wanna say September,
Okay.
because I know her birthday was in November, and that she turned 1 year old, and when we got her, she was 10 months. So, it was
Okay.
either end of August, beginning of September. But where that also helped was, at first I was like, "Oh my god, she's so cute, a puppy." And then, you get all the puppy things of jumping and biting and chewing, and it was just like, "Okay, well, this isn't gonna work." So, we need to start some training, and training now, which also gave me something else to look forward to, and it put some structure back into my day.
Mm-hmm.
And I can share with you, just it's only really been about 30 days. Well, actually, I'll tell you that part in a little bit here. Um, the dogs have been exciting. It's been great. When I didn't want to get off the couch, Walt would come and jump up on the couch and just like lay next to me, or like, come up and like lick my arm. And so it's one of those things that, our animals are so sensitive to us once they
Mm-hmm.
bond, that they know something's going on, but they don't know what. And just the level of comfort that they bring. And I would also say that, I think that that's also just another beautiful thing. I know that we see the shirts and the stickers like, who rescued who
Right,
type
right.
thing from
Mm-hmm.
rescue. And having Walt and having Lily has been just truly an amazing experience to laugh and to play and to look at some of the stupid things they do sometimes and look at it and be like, okay, well, now we get to train this so that doesn't happen again. And I'm just so grateful for Warren and for the dogs, and that we get to play with them, and that we get to practice our photography skills on them, and that the training and the structure that we bring to the dogs is, as much as we train a dog, it's truly that we're training ourselves back
Mm-hmm.
into systems and back into a regimen. And I remember one of the things you told me one time was, every minute you're with the dog, you're training them, and you're
Mm-hmm.
either training them what to do or what not to do. And it's also what allowed me the opportunity to step back into, okay, well, what does this mean for my business? Like, what are the patterns that I need to put back in? Because we had done some things in years prior that allowed us to have some residual income, so that I was able to grieve.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say that the flip side of that is, and this is something for all leaders to look at and to consider, is because there was that residual income, I was able to grieve, but also because of that residual income, a good friend of mine taught me an acronym called DB Soya, and but for today we'll make it DB Soybe. And what she shared with me is that, when you're going through something in your life, that recurring revenue can allow you to experience DB Soya, which she called doing business sitting on your, and we're going to say butt. Um, and but that's just it. So, but it also, instead of doing business sitting on my butt, it also allowed me to heal and to grieve sitting on my butt, because there was that recurring revenue coming in.
So important. As I said, I've been preaching this. I've called it an insurance policy. For when life gets in the way, when you create these online things, we call them virtual real estate, where you don't have to kiss butt on a banker to get a mortgage to put up a website that cash flows. It allows all these things to happen without all that extra pressure on you. And then you went and got married in the middle of all this, right?
Yeah, so we actually, and that was actually something that kept getting put on hold. And I don't even know the all the right words to share this and even talk about this. It's been great to be able to share life with someone who cares for you and supports you. And when I say supports you, I mean cares for you. I don't even just mean financially. I mean like emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
And to say, hey, is something wrong? And when you give them a bullcrap answer, that they just don't accept it, and they push and challenge for what the real issue is, because they know you and they care about you. And so we were actually supposed to get married March 3rd of this year. So we were supposed to get married March 3rd,
Mm-hmm.
2019. That was the plan. And then when my father passed, I was like, okay, well, there's no way I'm going from planning a funeral to planning a wedding. And then I went through, I think really what kind of took me through this emotional roller coaster this past year is that going through what I'd been through in the relationship with my dad, and and talking about homosexuality and all of these things, for my dad to have been in a place where he was excited for me and excited for Warren and loved Warren and allowed Warren to help care for him in his last days.
Mm-hmm.
That, and over the past few years, that when we set that March 3rd date, we already knew. I mean, we didn't know that my father was going to pass, but we knew that the Parkinson's was progressing, and there was more tremors, and you know, I forget the word, but he had to start drinking this liquid that had this thickener in it because the esophagus was getting tighter.
Mm.
Um, and so he was already on these thicker liquids, and he couldn't have regular coffee anymore because just regular liquids would make him like choke and cough up. And so there was already these major physical changes happening. And so when we had this date of March 3rd, it was something that was so special to me because to have been through this journey um, with my father, and for him to love Warren and approve of Warren and to want to be there at our wedding was something that I never thought I would see. And so to be able to then know that my dad wanted to be at our wedding and be a part of our wedding, and then have him, rapidly ascend and to die, all of a sudden it was just like I couldn't imagine having a wedding without him being
Mm-hmm.
there, which was interesting because if you'd asked me 3 years ago, the answer would have been, I can't imagine having a wedding with my dad
I
there,
can't
right?
imagine even talking
And
to him.
so,
Yeah, yeah.
right. So I can't imagine having a wedding with my dad there. All of a sudden, to fast forward a few years to my dad passing and being like, man, I can't imagine having my wedding and my dad not being there. And so we scrapped the March 3rd date and we said, you know what, we'll do it later this year. And then the more that we talked about it, it just became increasingly difficult for me to imagine a wedding without my dad there. And so in July, a lot of people knew that we were planning on getting married in March. And so we kind of took a different approach. And in July, we said, you know what? Let's throw the party.
Right. I remember
And people are like,
that.
what? We're like, yeah, so we're going to do the party. We're going to call it a celebration of love dinner. We'll do the reception and the party, and let like have a great time with people, celebrate with our friends, and then when we're ready, we'll get married in our timing, in our way, and not do the wedding for everybody else, but do it for us. And so we did that in July, and then on December 13th, just a couple weeks ago, we actually got married in Orlando and did the pictures at Disney, pictures with Mickey, all of that, which was very fitting because Disney is such a special place for Warren and me, but it's also, even growing up, a place that my parents would take us 2 to 3 times a year to Disney. And a big part of that love for Disney comes from my dad, and the possibility and the dreaming and always challenging things. And I think I even probably shared on the last episode that we did together that, as a kid, I was probably about 6. One of the things that my dad asked me was, what do you want to be when you grow up? And to this day, Tom, I can't tell you what the answer was. I might have said an astronaut or who knows what. I don't remember
Hmm.
what I said. But what I will always remember was my dad's response, which was, if you can be anything in the world, why not dream bigger? And, that's one of the lessons that I carry with me, now 32 years later, is as a human being, as an entrepreneur, as a now husband, as a brother, as a son, is, why not dream bigger? And why do we allow ourselves to take on the limitations that people put on us because of the story that they decided to gift us? We decided to open a story that they gave us. And it's like an author. I don't know an author that ever says, I'm going to write the worst book in the world and no one's going to buy a copy. They all say, I'm going to write a best-selling book. And if we say that we're going to write a best-selling book, then as entrepreneurs and as leaders, why do we not say, you know what, how do I write the best life?
Wow. Well said. Well said. So what's the future hold now?
Man, oh man, Tom, I wish I had the right answer to that. The answer I have right now is um, that the future is bright. And where, I think that a big piece of this healing came from is, so the day before Thanksgiving, my mother got a phone call, and it was the cemetery that my dad's headstone had come in and they had placed it. And my mom lives about an hour and a half. hour 45 minutes from where the cemetery is. And so on Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, because like I said, they called the day before Thanksgiving. Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, my mom, my sister, my niece, and me get in the car, and we're driving to go to the cemetery. And just kind of the whole way there, we're talking about dad, we're talking about his antics, we're talking about the crazy BS things he would do sometimes, and just having a great time, right? And laughing. And when we got to the cemetery and I saw the headstone, it was I don't know how to explain it. It was just kind of like it's something that said the story's just starting. And we drove back to my mom's house, driving back, we have dinner on the way. And that night I called Warren and I was like, my dad taught us so many lessons, so many things. And when we're in the Facebook group, I would always post pictures of dad. And when we'd go to breakfast and we'd share some of his marketing ideas, business ideas. And we were just talking about it. And I went to bed that. And as cuckoo as it sounds, and I already know somebody listening to this, I already know y'all gonna have some crazy comments, and that's cool. Um, but it was like I went to bed that night and I felt like I lived like my dad came to visit me and I just had like a conversation with him,
Mhm.
like for the entire night. Like I literally felt like I spent an entire day with him, even though I was only asleep like 4 hours. And I woke up the Saturday after Thanksgiving with just like this burden and this weight lifted off of me. And I just said, okay, it's time to go. And it was like he had told me it's time to go. And so when we say what the future is it's continuing to build the business. It's continuing to do things online. It's writing a book right now called Breakfast with Dad to honor my father's legacy and what he
Mhm.
taught me about entrepreneurship. And at the same time, it's as we continue to go forward, a lot of people have known us in this sponsorship space, but what allowed us to do the work in the sponsorship and to do work with some of these other brands and to get on stages was the ability to see relationships and to connect the platforms into what's possible. And so people can expect to see from us not just teaching sponsorship. We're still going to teach it, but also teach more of what you need. And so, how do you build that platform? How do you build that highly engaged community? And how do you jump on the platforms that give you the opportunity to be able to get those sponsors, to get those partners, to get the affiliates that allow it that when life throws you that curveball, you still have something coming in, or that there's something down the pipeline coming because of the work that you already did ahead of time with partners, with collaborations, with sponsorships, because of the platform that we've built as leaders. And we want other people to, I don't want other people to experience death, right? But I want other people, very much like you've experienced for so many years, Tom, and grateful to share with me and mentor myself and others. I want other people to be able to, when life throws them that curveball, know that they have the time to heal in their way because of the way that they built their business and their platforms beforehand.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily the loss of a loved one per se, like you did, but it could be a divorce, it could be
Be
a
divorced. I mean, it could be a
sickness.
surgery.
Yeah, it could
I mean,
be
it
a
could be like, I need to go have a surgery.
yeah, exactly. Sickness could be, broken down car that you can't afford to fix, or it just could be all kinds of things. That's what's going to happen to people. Life is
Or
going to
even the
get in the
great
way.
things.
Yeah.
And even the great things. Like, so for example, somebody that I know, um, another coach here in the industry, he has a student of theirs who just took a few weeks off of her business because they had initially gotten two kids from the foster care system, but
Mm.
they had a long drawn out court battle while they were waiting to get custody out of the foster care system for permission to adopt the second child. And because of the business that she had built, she was able to take the time to be with the lawyers and be in court and do everything else to celebrate adopting a kid. And so it's also for those great things in life, like when you want to adopt a kid, or if you have your own baby, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
let's hope you're not on stage giving birth, but but it's for those happy moments in life too that what do we build as entrepreneurs so that when life comes, the happy moments, the sad moments, the crying moments, and the things that we get to celebrate, when they happen, what have we built that allows us to experience all that's around us?
Yeah, and it's a journey. This entrepreneurial journey is a journey of pain. It's a journey of 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It's a journey of super highs and super lows, and it's just all smoothed out if you can build these systems that keep the money coming in, so you take that pressure level off of you. So I'm wishing great things for you in the future. I know I can't imagine like all of a sudden you're fixed. All right, because I know it's 20 years later. I told you last night in a text, I go into Home Depot and Lowe's and Harbor Freight, which, my dad was totally blue collar, taught me how to fix things, and I still have some of his tools, and I still get a tear in my eye and feel him with me when I'm in those places. So it's still a journey, but how can people get in touch with you?
So, I think, well, I'm going to go back and say one more thing on what you just said. You're right. It's all a journey. And what's great now is that, at first I would look at a picture of my dad and I just wanted to cry and like cry from like this sadness, woe is me. And now I get to see it and I get that tear or you
Mm-hmm.
cry, but it's the thank you for what you taught me.
Yep.
And thank you for, and so you're right. It's a continued journey, but it's the lens from which I get to see it now,
Yeah,
which
and I
is
tell
from
people,
an appreciation viewpoint.
I tell people, he's sitting here talking to you, basically, because what he did, he taught me and made me to become. It's like, yeah, Tom's talking to you, but so's Sam. Really.
Yep. Yeah. So the obviously the webpage is robertocandelaria.com, and we're making some changes to the Facebook groups, but also on Instagram, Roberto Candelaria, and then just check out Tom's mailing list and web pages, and I'm sure you'll see me and Tom hanging around and instigating and doing more things so that entrepreneurs are able to not only be able to live for themselves, but live for their families and be able to make the difference that they want in the way that they want. And so, yeah, find me there, find me on social media. And Tom, thank you for this
Tell him
conversation.
Warren's. Yeah, my pleasure. Tell him Warren's stuff too.
Yeah, so Warren, you can find at warrencarlisle.com or on, I was gonna say on Octonation. On Instagram, you can find him at Octonation, which is the world's largest octopus
Fan
fan
club.
club. Which, if you are curious at all, be sure to go back through the Screw the Commute website because Warren and Tom did an episode, but I don't know that one off the top of my head. I remembered mine was number 50 because I remember when you were first starting the podcast, I said, I want to be number 50.
Oh, okay.
And you were
Yeah.
like, why? And I was like, because I remember you saying, why do you want to be episode number 50? I said, just give me time to get my crap together.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, even though people will be hearing this afterwards, have a Merry Christmas. Hug Ileana for me. Tell your mom and sister I said hi and I love them. And all things good for you, bud.
Yes, sir. Same to you.
All right, folks. We'll catch you all on the next episode. See you later.